millions of people under some kind of winter warning or alert. And it's not just snow that we're worried about. We've got accumulating ice that could make driving very dangerous. Good morning. Welcome into America's Weekend Headquarters. I'm meteorologist Kelly Cass.
And I'm meteorologist Molly McCollum. Meteorologist Reynolds Wolf will join us live from Boston later this morning, where we will eventually see several inches of snow pile up, plus more winter storms are building in behind this one as we head into the upcoming week.
Warm out. We're getting more of the kids outside and we're not crowded inside.
Not everybody's inside.
And it's cold out, you know. So yeah, but be careful. Wash those hands often. You can see where we're going temperature wise. Maybe not quite as warm as yesterday, but still there will be cloud cover, that chance of rain stretching from the southern plains all the way through the Ohio Valley.
We know temperatures are still warm in the south, and that's perfect if you're visiting New Orleans, perhaps for the big game. But it's complicating things a little bit in the middle of the zone where we're seeing winter and more spring-like weather, and that's where we're seeing a lot of ice.
And allowing these storms to kind of form along that contrast zone and head toward the east. You mentioned New Orleans, of course, the big day tomorrow. It is Super Bowl.
Let's head to Philly, where I know a lot of people are going to be wearing green this weekend. A lot of excitement, but unfortunately we have a lot of pink on the map, and that denotes freezing rain and ice accretions, which are reaching levels potentially 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch of ice. That's enough to cause travel impossible, power outages, potentially extensive power outages, depending on how quickly that ice starts to accrete. So this is something that we need to watch out for. I know there's a lot of excitement in Philly this weekend for the Super Bowl, a lot of parties probably being planned for tomorrow. Getting to the grocery store or stores or any errands you have to run today, complicated in the second half of the day by the freezing rain. Now, the precipitation moves on by Sunday, but unfortunately, you still have the ice because the cold air is still in place. Harrisburg, similar situation. We're expecting anywhere from 1/2 an inch to maybe perhaps 1/4 of an inch of ice, but either one, and you know, you're putting in that category of dangerous travel, impossible travel, power outages, potentially some tree damage as well. If you have any, you know, say weaker limbs on a tree in your backyard, that might fall. Through the overnight hours, we still have the freezing rain. By tomorrow morning, the system is out of here, but we still have the issues with the ice. A bit of a complicated forecast when you look at New York City, because yes, we're anticipating snow, 4, 5, 6 inches of snow, especially as you go just north of New York City. You're going to find some of those heavier snowfall amounts. But any type of mix of precipitation we see that tries to sneak in through the overnight hours, so freezing rain, sleet, that's going to eat away at the snowfall amounts. So maybe you don't quite end up with those 4, 5, 6 inches of snow, but snow is still anticipated.
We get beyond the weekend, beyond your Super Bowl plans tomorrow, there will be a couple more storms to track through the early part of the week. So temperatures, we're going to be monitoring that because that will determine what type of precip you get, not just at the surface, but aloft in the atmosphere as well, because there will be some warm, moist air riding in from the south. So that's going to complicate matters right where the snow and rain kind of meet up. Here's a look at the European model. Again, this is going to be Wednesday into Tuesday, or Monday into Tuesday. 1 to 3 inches, says the Euro, in portions of Iowa, southern portions of Minnesota. Not that much toward the I-70 corridor. But look at the American model. Wants to give a lot more to the I-70 corridor between Kansas City, St. Louis, and not as much for places like Des Moines. So there are some differences when it comes to the models, depending on the exact track of the storm. The moisture meeting up with cold air, the timing is everything, right? So you've got the green, that's the rain around Oklahoma City and Tulsa, but through the southern Ozarks, as you can see for Tuesday morning, there will be that mix of snow and sleet and at times freezing rain cutting across the lower end of the Ohio Valley. European model, now we're bringing the system into the northeast Tuesday into Wednesday, has the heaviest snow from West Virginia into the I-81 corridor, but the American model wants to see more widespread heavy snow stretching all the way to the Delmarva Peninsula. So we start the clock Tuesday, and you can see the leading edge of that snow working into the Canal Valley here, I-81, Roanoke, Radford, up to Stanton and Washington, D.C., and that snow possibly getting as far north as White Plains here in New York, but notice not as much as for New England. It's all about the mid-Atlantic and down into Virginia, where we see quite a lot of weather here. That's disturbance number 1, and then another one comes in behind it Wednesday into Thursday. So Molly, we keep this pattern very active for this upcoming week. And if you love winter, it's a great place to travel this time of year right there in upstate New York, where they are celebrating winter. The annual Saranac Lake Winter Carnival continues right through tomorrow.
And the highlight of this festival is a huge ice palace that volunteers build every single year. John Kutchko shows us how they do it. Meteorologist Molly McCollum.
I'm meteorologist Kelly Cass. On active volcano to active weather, right? The next few days, it's not just this weekend storm, but all the way through next weekend.
It is going to be an active stretch of winter weather and potentially some flash flooding. So let's start on the winter side of things.
You may get a little freezing drizzle actually later on today, as most of the snow is going to stay off to your north, and then of course you got the rain down toward the south. But right where these two air masses are kind of coming together, this is where we have that potential for mixed precipitation, including freezing rain. That's showing up in the pink. We've got an ice storm warning, including up on the hill there in Johnstown, PA, Punxsutawney, Groundhog Day last weekend. Now we've got a winter weather advisory, and we bring that snow into the northeast where the snow lasts a longer period of time, and therefore we're going to get bigger accumulations. So widespread 5 to 8, possibly even up to a foot of snow in some locations. We'll call it a moderate snow back here across the Great Lakes as it tapers off later tonight. Darker blue, though, around Rhinelander to Green Bay, we could see as much as 3 to 5 inches. But it's really here around the Capital District, Hudson Valley, Adirondacks, through the Berkshires and Boston. We got several inches of snow on the way. And speaking of Boston, we got Reynolds Wolf. He'll be reporting live from there later this morning. The ice accretion is going to be a big deal too, unfortunately. It's not just a glaze, but perhaps up to a ½ inch of ice. And when you get that much ice, it's damaging. That's our damaging category. So you get the tree damage, power outages can be expected right in the heart of Pennsylvania, Molly's, where we think the heavier ice accretion will take place.
Let's start, Kelly, as we look at a few of our cities impacted by Winter Storm Garnett, where we're going to see all snow, and that is in Boston. As mentioned by Kelly, we'll see Reynolds there later this morning as people are anticipating the biggest snow that we've seen so far this season, 6 to 7 inches of snow falling around the Boston area. Season to date, we're running about 11 inches below average. We've seen snow. It's just been a little bit at a time, and it really hasn't added up to a lot. That's going to change with this pattern that we're falling into. In fact, it's one of the more active patterns that we've seen for the Boston area as far as snowfall goes in the last couple of years. New York also could be seeing some snow, adding to your snow that you've seen so far this season. Again, light amounts over, so far the season, and it hasn't really amounted to a whole lot, but 4 to 5, 6 inches of snow as you go up towards the Yonkers area. We could see some of those amounts end up being less. And here's why. Because we're going to start with snow this evening, but then look what happens overnight. Some of that warmer air starts to nose its way in, and that could eat away at some of our snowfall amounts. And by tomorrow morning, Kelly, this system is out of here.
Out the door with your Saturday snapshot. Need the umbrellas across much of the south. That rain is going to be with us for a while, by the way. And then you've got that mixed bag kind of cutting across the Ohio Valley toward the Mid-Atlantic.
And where Reynolds is in Boston, you just need the snow gear.
That's right.
It's going to be all snow throughout the duration of the event. This is really the beginning of what's going to be an extremely active pattern. And we're not going to see a whole lot of change in this divide of seasons.
Yeah, right where we have the cold meeting up with the warm air, we got these storms developing and kind of streaking across from the Midwest to the Northeast. So the storm we're getting now, is going to be followed by a couple of storms as we go into the upcoming week.
Well, Kelly, let's head to New Orleans. Where
let's head there.
Something, I think, going on this weekend. What you can do about it. We're joined by Dr. Jane Morgan, Vice President of Medical Affairs at Hello Heart in Atlanta. Thank you so much for joining us this morning about a topic that not a lot of us want to talk about.
That's
because if you haven't had it yet, you're like, I just don't want to talk about it. Right. But why are we seeing more cases, especially since COVID? These are some of the highest numbers that we've seen.
That's right.
High, the school districts in 8 states have closed school due to this, but you mentioned, maybe not getting the flu shots as often, right, with the kids.
Right, and the flu shot is about 50% effective the regular flu when you're co-infected with a patient. So that's actually a worst case scenario, and we're keeping an eye on that.
Well, Dr. Morgan, we've got about 30 seconds left, but what is your best advice? Just run it down the list of how we can avoid the flu for the rest of the season.
So by 6 times, that's because the flu causes inflammation in the body, including in the muscle. The heart is a muscle. You can get inflammation, you can get plaque rupture, and so we see heart attacks increasing.
And that's when we need to see doctors like Dr. Morgan.
Yes.
Dr. Jane Morgan, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks so
Appreciate
much.
it.